5 o'clock, the time for the regular scheduled Natchitoches Parish School Board meeting of December 3rd. Mr. Garner, will you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Sure.
And Mr. Trent Willis, will you do the invocation? Thank you.
Face back, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you tonight and we give your name praise, honor, and glory. God, we ask that you will please remember our district and our state. God, we ask that you will be in the midst of our meeting tonight, that you would give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on all our decisions tonight. And this I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Willis. Mr. Garner? Would all school board members and members of the public please silence their cell phones or any other electronic devices so that we can be disturbed or not disturbed during the meeting? Ms. Reynolds, can we have a roll call? Attendance.
Mr. Dancy.
Here.
Mr. McTwire.
Here.
Mr. Benefield.
Here.
Mr. Garner.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
Mrs. Guidro. Here. Mrs. Willis.
Here.
Mrs. Broadway.
Here.
Mrs. McGaskey. Ms. Palmer.
Here.
And Ms. Phelps. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would like to remind all members of the public that are attending, if they'd like to speak to an agenda item, please secure a form in the back of the room and pass it up front. You can again speak to agenda items only. Mr. Kozad, do we have any comments from the public?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Board members, Superintendent Eloy presented his report, and do you need to review anything else, sir?
I have 4 quick additions, things that have come up throughout the time between our last meeting. Real quick, I wanted to update you all. You had a question about how many of our uncertified folks were not in programs. We have 37 of our total are not in programs right now, but that's the reason behind our program with NSU is to get them in programs. So we hope to significantly reduce that number in the coming weeks and months.
37 of 70.
The total number, it fluctuates, but it's I believe it's in the high 70s. And again, I can double check that for you and shoot you an email about the total number, but 37. The COVID...
Excuse me, Dr. Eloy, you do realize that as opposed to where we were 2 years ago, that's 67 less people that are now in programs. 67 people that are now in programs or have received certification. That's great. That's great work by the district.
Yeah, and I think with this program that Dr. McAllister is helping us with, I really think these 37 folks, there's no reason to think that we shouldn't have 95% of those, if not 100%, in a program by the summertime. I wanted to mention that as I mentioned to you Tuesday, the numbers are coming out weekly on the LDH site of our COVID numbers as produced by RedCap system. The most recent numbers came out, and nothing really amazing to report because we were out for Thanksgiving, but I just did want you to know that those are up there, and there were 0 reported cases for students and teachers for that week of Thanksgiving, which we know why. I also mentioned to you all that I would be talking to the sheriff between the Tuesday meeting and the Thursday meeting about them helping us with our game policy. They've agreed that they are able to help us escort anyone out who is unwilling to abide by our regulations. And I will be at the game tonight after this meeting to make sure all of that goes smoothly. But I've heard from Mr. Gordy and his team, and they seem to have a really good plan in place. And then finally, many of you have heard from the governor and some news reports about the CDC's new guidelines in terms of quarantine. We were on a conference call this morning with our Region 7 LDH representative, Dr. White, and I wanted to let you know that those are going to come to pass, but we're waiting for the official guidelines from LDH, which they have not put out yet. They suspect that will be in the next few days, if not about a week. And once that happens, we will implement that. And for those of you who don't know, it's a reduction in time from 14 days quarantine to either 10 or 7 based on the situation. So that's all I have.
I got if a teacher gets COVID, why don't the whole class be quarantined?
So what we do whenever we have anyone who gets it is we immediately, the principal starts gathering information, and then we call Dr. White and we kind of relay the situation. In some cases, it's an automatic just because of the nature of the size of the room or the number of kids in class or the fact that maybe they were within 6 feet apart. But when we call Dr. White, if we can verify that the teacher was masked up the entire time and was able to maintain 6 feet social distance the entire time, then Dr. White and ourselves have not been quarantining the entire class. But it's really about, and it's not so much the mask because everyone's doing that pretty well, it's more about the social distance. And so there's been a few times where, we have cameras in some of the classrooms that we're able to actually go in and look at the camera footage and say, okay, here's our positive person. Who were they within 6 feet for more than that 15 minutes? So we will never cut corners on that, but if Dr. White says that she believes, based on all the data we produce and the investigation we've done, that these other folks are safe, then we go with that recommendation. So that would be our thinking or our philosophy behind that. But it's in line with what LDH is promoting to us.
So they check the cameras in every instance where a child or a teacher is found?
When there are cameras. Not every classroom has cameras. That's just one instance. Otherwise, like, I'll sit there with Ms. Page, and what she'll do is she has a number of questions she asks. And oftentimes what happens is when you first talk to someone, you say, well, have you been careful? And they automatically say, oh yeah, I've worn my mask the whole time. And what we found is there has to be deeper probing questions, because what ends up happening is you say it all the time. So you've never taken off your mask? And inevitably, sometimes they'll say, well, I took off my mask one time, and we're talking about kids here and stuff. I took off my mask and I was just around my family. I was like, okay, well, how long were you around your family? And when you say family, do you mean extended family? And so through those probing questions, I think Miss Page has become kind of like Joe Friday off whatever that old show is. But she gets to the bottom. Yeah, Dragnet. Thank you. But she gets to the bottom of it when we don't have the actual visual, physical evidence. And we also believe most times people, it's not that they're being untruthful, it's that they don't realize that one slip up can mean that you need to be quarantined. So I have total confidence in how Miss Page has been going through it. And if we ever have a question, if there's ever that feeling in our gut that we aren't getting the full amount of information, then we err on the side of the quarantine.
Well, there is some concern, I know, from talking to some teachers at Natchitoches Central about some instances whereby there has been a student, There's a student that has been confirmed to be COVID-19, been in the classroom for some time, and they don't hear anything when it comes to the tracking. I would think that if it's over 15 to 30 minutes and that the child has been in the classroom among students, that everybody around in that immediate area would be involved in the tracking to ensure that nobody has COVID, or you could have somebody that's asymptomatic. So we just, want to be sure that they're following the proper procedure.
So what I can tell you is that every time we talk to principals and weekly emails, daily discussions, there's a principal who called Miss Page today 6 times just to reiterate, because these regulations and rules are cumbersome at times and they're sometimes hard to follow. And so I believe wholeheartedly, and we're going to continue to do it, that we are reiterating the proper procedures to our folks at the schools, to these principals. And that being said, I'm not going to tell you that there haven't been times where they maybe missed a step in that. But I believe in those situations we have been able to go behind them at times, remediate their misunderstanding, and be able to address the situations adequately. And any time where you have a parent who is somewhat miffed with what's been done or doesn't think that enough has been done, please, that's that board concerns, shoot it to me, because the most important thing right now, it's not reading, writing, and arithmetic, it's keeping our kids safe with this COVID-19. So there's going to be times where they disagree with what we're doing, because I'm telling you, all these rules and regulations, they're confusing, they're at times convoluted, they're at times hard to follow. So there's gonna be times where they just misunderstand, but if, there's gonna be times where they may legitimately find something that we did not do to the letter, and that's just because these are human beings, and they make mistakes. And we want to be able to fix that with the quickest response possible. And so if y'all are aware of that, I have no problem, me and Ms. Page say all the time, parents call us, teachers call us, if you have a question, because we can look into it and figure it out, and typically, you're not gonna have as many mistakes from 2 people as you do with, 10, 20, 30 folks involved. But I will say this, overall, I talked to other superintendents, I talked to other districts. I think the job that our principals and teachers have done in our mitigation efforts have been, I don't want to be melodramatic, but nothing short of almost heroic, because it's weighed them down this year. But I do think there's always room for improvement. There's always room for us to make sure that we are following these procedures with 100% fidelity at all times.
Yeah, and like yesterday, the pictures we got, if we got employees can't follow the rules, they need to go home, get them in the pocket, suspend them, because a lot of them around here think it's not real, but this one person knows it's real. I had an uncle that died from it, and a real good friend that died from it. And if they can't follow policy, we need to send them home. And if anybody, coming to school with it and know they got it, send them home, because this lives we're fooling with. And it's very serious. If they can't understand the rules, why are they even teaching? Because if you want a child to follow a rule and you can't, you don't even need to be teaching.
I agree. We have to take a very harsh stance towards anyone not.
If they can't handle it, the teachers out there, find somebody that can handle it. To make sure they're doing it, because this is nothing to play with. A lot of people think it's nothing with it. Where I work at down there, a lot of people come in the office. I put them out the office. Well, it ain't so. I gotta have them. I don't care. You ain't coming in here with me. Because I have to protect me, and I have to protect my son at the house.
Yes, sir.
And, it's, a lot of, on the first, I thought it wasn't, that bad. But when you lose an uncle and a real family friend, you realize it's real.
Yes, sir. No, and I think we said from day one, there's never been any hesitation from our office of how seriously we take it. Ms. Page, myself, there's no time off from COVID. There's just not. And we believe that we've expressed that completely to the principals. And if there's anyone who doesn't agree with that, then we will address that completely in a personnel way. So.
But not only that, but you really can't tell sometimes where it comes from. You really can't tell, and it could come from any source. And I can verify that 100%. So.
But like the picture we got yesterday, one standing up within amongst all the kids without his vest on, without their vest on, that's just ignorant.
I think the superintendent
something like that with all these kids around.
Yeah, that was handled immediately yesterday, and that is one of the many reasons why I want to be out and about at these activities, because oftentimes it's a large organization. You're dealing with multiple people, and sometimes the right thing has been expressed, but sometimes people unilaterally decide to do what they want to do on their own.
Right.
But when it's brought to the attention of the leader, it's really what I'm concerned about is how they are addressing it once they find out.
That's right.
And to your point, Mr. McGuire, how serious it is.
It is, because people dying every day.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have some, the truth, because you hear it in the news every day. Some people, it's not affecting as much. It comes down to the race and ethnicity of people, because I'm just, it seems like minorities, African Americans, are more affected than whites and other races. And maybe that's why, because they're not, maybe that's why there's such a difference with being concerned, because people are dying, older people with major illnesses, high risk. And it makes a difference when you're not dealing with it. But as Mr. McClellan said, I dealt with it in my family, 3 or 4 different people. It is serious, and just blessed to still be here.
Well, and I think we should all take it personally when people aren't doing what they're supposed to, because, I think of the gym tonight. One of the reasons I want the gym tonight at Natchitoches Central to be right is because my 63-year-old father, who has underlying conditions, will be coaching on the other sideline. And so for that one person who doesn't know me, doesn't know my dad, doesn't know anything about anything, they're going to be in that gym, and if they're not wearing their mask, then I take that as a personal affront against, someone near and dear to my heart. And I think that's how we all have to take this. It may not affect you, it may not affect anyone in your family, but it's gonna affect someone, and we have to go in with that mentality.
And we do, over the course of time slip back, and so we just need to be vigilant.
I think that's the key word, vigilant, because there are people with COVID fatigue, but now is not the time for COVID fatigue. Now is the time to hunker down and if for anything else, double down on our efforts. So, no, I'm in total agreement with y'all.
Yeah, and there's a consequence for what you do. You won't do it again.
Yes, sir.
Believe me.
Okay. Board members, before we get into old business and new business, would like to remind everyone to speak directly into the microphone so we can all hear and members of the public. Any old business that we need to consider? Any new business? I would like for us to consider the consent agenda.
I'll offer.
Have an offer by Mr. McGuire,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Reverend Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Dancy, your report, sir.
Item number one, there was no action on bids for this month. Item number two, we received a transportation report from Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, do you have any updates or anything?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening. We have some updates. First, I'd like to update everyone on the 3 students that we had in New Orleans taking the test to become master trainers. All 3 of them passed the test. They've all made it back home safely today. So we are grateful for that. We had some issues that came up at the last meeting. I was happy to start working on those issues when I left the meeting. We have resolved the issue for the high school. We'll have a driver just for that high school, for those kids in the evening hours, because they're not late in the morning, just evening. And starting Monday, we have that resolved. So it will be resolved starting Monday when we return to school. The second issue, we're gonna go back and re-strategize and replan and revamp our plans as far as training our drivers. The biggest thing that we're gonna implement is it's gonna be mandatory that driver ride to a meet on their first date. From my background being a third-party tester, I feel like I'm gonna be the best person to do that job, to make sure that driver is 100% trained and safely ready to operate that bus. And I'll fill out a third-party report on each driver, signed by myself and Mr. Ryan or Mr. Jeff. And we'll have that in our paperwork as well. Definitely continuing to push the COVID cleaning on the buses, making sure that we're continuing to do the best that we can to cease anything on the buses. Like I said, we have 10 masks per bus now. So if a student at the bus stop doesn't have a mask, we'll be able to give those students masks. And whatever else we need to do to help that spread stop. And if there's any other thing, I'm definitely willing to hear any requests, answer any questions. You guys can call me, come see me. Saturday, we have that driver going to take her third-party test. That's going to give us a driver. And I forgot to mention the other day, one of our mechanics is going to take their third-party test. So that'll be emergency purposes only, but it does actually give me another certified driver in our fleet.
Okay, third party, you're talking about DOT checkout?
I'm sorry?
Third party, you're talking about a DOT checkout ride?
Say that again?
A DOT checkout ride? You said third party?
I used to be a third-party tester in New Orleans. I still have all the skills.
But what I'm saying is you have someone Saturday, you said, so is that?
Oh, yeah, we have someone going to.
Is that a DOT checkout
Yes.
ride? Okay.
Yeah, she's actually going to take the test to become a driver. She's passed the
Okay,
written test.
so the test.
She has to go to Alexandria to test with a third-party tester
Yes, sir.
to receive her CDL license, and she'll be doing that tomorrow.
Okay, so when you do a ride along with someone to verify, is that gonna be in conjunction or
Yes.
actually in addition to the
Yes.
initial checkout?
Exactly. So now when she
So you'll
comes,
have 2 levels?
2 levels. When
Yes.
she comes back from receiving her license to drive in Louisiana, she's gonna be a licensed CDL driver.
Yes, sir.
She'll be continuing her training now before she gets on the route. And I'm gonna ride with her before she's released to drive the kids on the bus. So basically, I'll be giving her another third-party test.
There you go. So that's great. So you got the DOT checked off and you got the Echo Ride checked out.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
So, and I just want to say, we had a discussion today with Mr. Johnson where we were just discussing our relationship, and I think it's, you know, we agreed that there's going to be things we mess up on, they mess up on. It's the nature of the beast, whether it be employees or contracts. But I just love the fact that Echo is so responsive, and specifically not just Echo, but Mr. Matthews, because I think Ms. McGaskey had some concerns Tuesday, and Ms. Phelps did, and me and Mr. Matthews haven't even had a conversation, but just to see him take care of these things is, I think, a breath of fresh air. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 3, receive tax commission report from Mr. Washington and the budget update. Yes, sir. Added to his own notes too. Does anybody need me to go over the tax commission report again? No? Okay. The budget, I had presented to you guys a change in the adopted budget based on conversations with Tim Page. And just to review, it would be an increase in the general fund budget of $475,978, and that money was put directly to payroll to cover COVID issues that might come up. Then I've given y'all also a list, and you can see it in this paperwork here. The first one I just mentioned is the one that's highlighted in yellow. It shares where the money was created, and then the expenditures, and it highlighted in yellow where I put the money, where I would like to put the money. Okay, and as you flip through this thing I gave you, on the very first page, like I see here, Consolidated District 7, the very first line. Not the first bolded line, but the very first line is the current adopted budget, and the third column is where I would like to revise it to. So like for Consolidated District 7, their BRE funds would move from $368,000 to $909,000. Once again, I was on the phone with Tim Page again today, just making sure I'm not making any mistakes again. And this is accurate. Okay? So that's District 7. District 8 has an increase from $85,000 in BRE funds to $120,000. District 9 is moving from $1,366,000 to $1,520,000. District 10, a few pages further back, is moving from $802,000 to $840,000. And also how I distributed the expenses on these line items is also disclosed here. But we literally spread it out over what we thought were the likely possibilities for those expenses. So I'd like to present this as the budget update. I'd like to be adopted. I move we accept the budget update.
I'll second. We have an offer by Mr. Danzy and a second by Mr. Garner to accept the budget update by Mr. Lee Watson. Roll call vote, Mr. Rebels, please.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McFly?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedrow?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Motion passed.
That was $1,244,000. That's just a part of the adjustments in the ad valorem tax, which is great. I'd like to also bring this up on my phone call with Tim Page this afternoon. He wanted to remind us that by December of 2021, Consolidated District 8 and Consolidated District 10 will need their taxes renewed. So we would like to start the process early, and maybe start presenting this process to y'all in January. So it really concerns those districts. We have to do the call for the tax vote. Okay, so we'll start seeing that will come up. This will give us actually several opportunities. We just have to have it passed by April of 2022. That's the goal.
That's a schedule it where it's
Right.
It's preferred in whatever election.
Right, and this is just being proactive instead of last minute.
In addition, it's also just a renewal.
Right, and it is a renewal.
Which district you say that,
This is District 8 and 10. I want to let you know, District 6 has expired. And we have not, there was no action taken in the past to renew it. It expired at the end of last year. So the people in District 6 had no consolidated money billed to them in this last bill, just this last bill. Okay? So, I did present to y'all a monthly budget report. Were there any other further questions with that? Okay.
Item number 5, receive the maintenance report. We received that. Are there any comments on that? Item number 6, receive school food service report. We have it here.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to that. I think Mr. Wascom spoke on this during his budget update Tuesday when he mentioned the discrepancy in our fixed costs and how many students we're serving, and that was going to be the bulk of Ms. Hicks' report. But I did want to add one item. If you recall, because of Hurricane Laura, she had been pursuing a grant opportunity through Weyerhaeuser. She did get granted the grant. It wasn't as much as she anticipated, but she did receive $7,000 toward that overall goal of getting that generator so that they don't have to have that issue anymore.
That's in the warehouse, right? That's
Yes,
generated
yes.
in the warehouse, okay.
Now all we have to do is Mr. Wascom has to find the remaining funds for that generator. So,
Thank you, Warehouse.
yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
The generator estimated cost for a 3-phase generator to manage all those refrigeration is roughly between $30,000 and $35,000. Okay. All right. Let's see. Wanted to report one more thing, which was the idea of moving on some things we need done legally locally. I had asked that y'all allowed me to present. I had presented a resume of Joe Stamey. Wanted to work on 3 specific things right away. We have a lot on Parkway Drive, which is right next to our the old Coca-Cola plant, our bus barn. And we have a property. We started the process of paving the parking lot. It had a deed restriction on it, and we wanted to have Joe work with us to help the community. We don't really need the attorneys in Baton Rouge have a hard time managing that type of thing. So I would like to ask y'all to accept his being our local attorney to manage real estate matters. We also have the issue of the Head Start building, which I think Ms. Morrow had brought up. This is an issue. We have issues of ownership. I've heard that these issues of ownership have been resolved. Nowhere in the notes have I found of even Mr. Foshi's. And actually, Ms. Revels went through old board minutes, and she was able to find reference to it, but nothing that substantiated what we had previously said that the ownership was decided. So she's still searching, but I think she went through quite a few board minutes today and yesterday, and we're still looking for those. Okay. So we'd like to ask him to work on that. Also, the matter of starting the process of selling, properly managing the Cleachville property. The longer we let these properties sit there, the more they cost us and the worse condition they become. It would be nice to find a community center or make a community center out of the Cleachville school. The question is, who would own it? Cleachville is not actually an incorporated town, so we can't transfer it to a town. We have to find what entity we would transfer ownership to. I mean, whatever it would be, whatever price it would be. Those are this process, and I need a local attorney to help. Otherwise, this stuff is just going to sit on. We're just going to sit on it. And so I'd like to get these matters resolved because this actually is kind of expensive to pay for the liability insurance to keep this going. It'd be nice to get these buildings back active, as Ms. Morrow brings up. And so she's not the first one who's made a request of me to get this resolved. I can tell you that the Head Start building is in absolutely horrible shape.
all the glass is broken out and stuff.
Mr. Wasserman, this is a purchase of professional services and the staff can do based on a recommendation. Board members, is there any consideration?
Will he be paid on a retainer or an hourly rate, or how will he be paid?
I was gonna start him on an hourly rate.
I think that's the wise thing.
I was just gonna do it as needed throughout time. We still have no intention of, most districts, school districts have a local attorney to manage these types of affairs. We still will, with Mr. Hammond's work for educational law, labor law, educational law. But, we do believe that this is a good move, so, because there's just politics local to Natchitoches Parish that people in Baton Rouge won't understand.
And let me just say too, I don't want anyone, whether it's on the audience or whatever, to believe that this is an added cost, because actually these are things we would have billed Hammonds for,
Right.
but because it would have probably taken them longer because they're out of town, they would have possibly in some cases had to drive here, do certain things. We actually feel like will be a cost savings for us.
And expedited too.
Yeah.
And just knowing the local lay of the land around here would be helpful.
Well, Hammond's and
And
Steele
probably
represent almost
even
every
some of
school
the other
district.
properties we have in the parish that a lot of, some of us don't even know we have it.
That's correct. I don't know if y'all know, but we do own quite a bit of timberland.
Yeah, and Wayne
Some of the
like had some property in Cookeville, I came and asked them about, and they didn't even know they had it.
Yes.
Then when they went researching, they found out, I think it's like 10 or 15 acres.
Well, I would like to bring.
And they don't even know.
Right, I'd like to, there's those old buildings that we had from old schools, and schools have been wiped out, and we actually still own the land, and I would like to reveal all that to the board so we can take appropriate action. Some cases we might sell it off, or some cases we may take up, whatever that would be. I think y'all need to have a full understanding of our assets and how they're out there. I did not, when you get on Waterwell Road, get off the exit 132 and make your way in, just look left and right, that's our land. A lot of that land.
478 acres out there.
So, and
So
so
the
it's,
board is receiving
Yeah,
royalties
it's
from the
professional
properties for.
Yeah, with the timber off of it.
whenever we timber we actually have to, we have to engage people to timber our land, reseed it, and all kinds of things. This is not really something that a school district is typically doing, but we do have that going on. So if y'all are okay with this, I know that I don't necessarily have to have your permission, I just wanted y'all to make y'all aware of it.
Now,
We don't have to add it to the agenda, okay, that's fine.
professional, he's just making us aware and letting us know that this is the
It's a
first.
significant thing, I don't want him representing us without this crew knowing about it.
That's fine, because we need to find out all what we need to
I
find
think we're
out.
all in agreement on that.
When you cast the vote on?
No.
It's my understanding we do not.
I hope y'all find out that the Head Start Center is owned by somebody else, that we would be no problem.
Once again, I will need permission from here to do that, yes.
But then there's somebody else, we don't even have no ownership on it. It saves us a bunch of money. Yeah.
Is there any other questions? I think that's it, Mr. Danby.
Okay, good.
Oh, the report, no,
comment on that?
we presented, Mr. Roger Cunningham presented at the last meeting, the audit report, once again. Were there any other questions about that? I'll do my best. The biggest important page that y'all need to be aware of is, of course, towards the back, this page, well, he doesn't have it numbered.
No, it's one of those.
It's 102 technically. 101's numbered, it's technically 102, where it's a letter from Thomas Cunningham Broadway and Toga Bear. And it's these four things. These are the typical four things you're gonna see. But like, for instance, if in the item we can get 71% lack of appropriate signatures down to 40%, that would be significant. They just wanna see improvement. There's so many people involved in this, but I will promise this board that I will be in the field trying to create best practices and get these numbers down.
And step one of that's gonna be Monday, we have a principals meeting
That's
where.
right. It starts Monday by making sure the principals understand they're responsible for this, right? I'm sorry, cut you off.
No, you're fine.
So there's,
Well, I move we accept the audit of the school activity fund.
I'll say.
We have a motion by Mr. Danzy and a second by Reverend Harris to accept the school activities audit report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, well, while we're talking about audits, the big audit from Fortenberry just finished. They will have it completed, and I should be able to present it to you. They will come and make an official presentation in February, but it should be completed by the end of this month, right, maybe the first week or so of January. We will just missed the January meeting, so it should be done. I will tell you this, that it looks really good, nice and clean.
Now, you were saying that, they were saying this is gonna be their last year. Do we need to start next month advertising for somebody to do it? Because I know, when we got them, it was, somebody that just quit and we had to hurry up and do it to
Right.
get the audit did in time.
Right, we would then have basically 9 months.
Okay.
To start that
We need
process.
to start,
Because we-
next month of February advertising, we need to go ahead and do that.
And I don't know about y'all, but I'd like to have these done a little sooner. I mean,
Yes, sir.
June end and report in February is a little late for me. I'd like to have them done at least a couple months sooner, so.
It's much better than last year. We had it in August.
Is that right? A year?
Yes, sir. The anniversary.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
For my profession,
I'm sorry.
Item number 7, if you go back to item number 7, consider a proclamation to the parish of Natchitoches to repair roads. Mr. Bidfield?
Yes, Mr. Dancy, he read the proclamation, we'd like to review it. It's, we're asking the Natchitoches Parish Council to repair the dangerous roads in Natchitoches Parish. This is the proclamation, whereas there are many documented cases of vehicle damage due to the condition of Natchitoches Parish roads, including front-end repairs, whereas there are many roads that do not meet the minimum standards of safety. Whereas there are documented cases of parish law enforcement, ambulance service, and firefighters that struggle to provide emergency assistance due to the conditions of Natchitoches Parish roads. Whereas Natchitoches Parish roads create issues to workers trying to get to their jobs. Whereas Natchitoches Parish roads slow response time during power outages after storms. Whereas Natchitoches Parish School Board buses struggle to safely travel parish roads, creating problems picking up and delivering students on time at school and at home. Many buses have real problems traversing these roads and cannot access them. Whereas the roads in Natchitoches Parish are in constant state of emergency and present danger to all that use them. And I think anyone who drives every day can attest to that. Therefore, being resolved that the individuals and groups listed below do hereby advise the Natchitoches Parish Council to repair all roads in Natchitoches Parish. If further resolved, it will not cease to seek necessary funds to repair and rebuild the Natchitoches Parish roads because of the dangers they present to all that travel them. And if we pass this resolution or this proclamation, I'd like to ask Reverend Harris to join me. We will attend the council meeting in December and present this to them and ask them to join us to fix their roads, and we'll petition the state.
I'm gonna offer that motion, Mr. Benfield, but there is some other questions some other board members have.
Okay.
Well, I spoke to Mr. Garner earlier. I just, in conversation, was speaking to someone the other day, and they actually brought up an issue. They are responsible for a nonprofit organization in town, and had actually just mentioned that the roads in the parish were a hindrance to their ability to serve individuals within our parish. And when I mentioned our proclamation, they were very interested in being able to write a letter of support. And so it does sound like there is still a little bit of time for anyone else who is interested in writing a letter of support that we can send with you and Mr. Harris to the meeting.
The district attorney asked me to present it to the parish council first, as opposed to going straight to the state. We do need to put them on notice, and I'm sure they're gonna be 100% trying to solicit any kind of funding we can from Baton Rouge. Anyone who would like to add their name to this, we would definitely appreciate that group joining us.
Okay, and would it be best to get in touch with Mr. Garner, because I know he was the one kind of spearheading, or would it be better to get in touch with you or Mr.
Mr.
Harris?
Benfield, and we're gonna be going over there.
Either way, you can have them call me, and I'll be happy to let them know what we already have, and then they can pattern it after that.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Do we hear a motion for this proclamation? I'm sorry. Have a motion by Mr. Garner. Second by Ms. Palmer. Can we have a roll call vote? Any discussion on this first? Roll call vote, Ms. Rose.
Mr.
Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board members.
Mr. President, that concludes finance.
Mrs. Page, your update, ma'am.
We only have one addition. Do you have any questions?
I do, on new hires, and it says, on A, McGee's Patio Cafe, is that where the service is gonna be rendered?
Yes, ma'am.
He's a student worker.
Mrs. Page, do we still have people who are asking to come to work at Natchitoches Parish and the school system every day?
We do.
Excellent.
Someone tomorrow. Yes, we do.
Thank you for all your
I have
hard
a
work.
question, I have another question. Like with the substitute, do they still have to go to the school and get the letter from the principal?
I know this has been a very, very tumultuous year for everyone, and this has been very tough keeping our schools staffed. And thank you very much for you and the staff that are doing that. We hear a motion to accept Mrs. Page's report.
I'll offer.
Second.
Offered by Reverend Harris, second by Mr. Garner. All in favor of this report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Right, executive report, item number 1, consider drug testing policy, Mr. Benfield.
Okay. We formed a committee, like we discussed at the committee meeting Tuesday night, and we landed upon the Lincoln Parish policy. We've had a number of ones to consider, and we've sent it to actually Superintendent Eloy and Mrs. Page to make sure that what we are creating will be something that we can live with. And so I'm asking the board to allow us to pass the drug testing policy and pattern it after the Lincoln Parish policy.
And I know y'all were wanting us to look at those, and I looked at those, and it seems as though to me the Lincoln Parish policy is simplistic in nature, but addresses every need we have. It gives us flexibility while also allowing us to do the things you need to do in those situations. So I'm fully behind the Lincoln policy.
Do we have a motion to accept the Lincoln Parish? Mr. McGuire offered, and second by Mrs. McGaskey. Board members, any discussion further on these policies?
Do we need to put an effective date on this?
Yes, sir, we do. And it's December, I think we need to have it effective February 15th. We need to have 60 days. We need to give everyone 60 days. Mrs. Page, do you think that's fair? 60 days, okay. So this will be effective February 15th, 2021. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Number 2, discuss the selection process for the new board president effective 2021. I think had a discussion on Tuesday. I think most of the people just want to make sure we have good president that will communicate and be inclusive. I think what we were talking about, and guess if anybody else got anything they want to say. Anyone else? All right. Item number 3, consider approving the NPSB board meeting calendar for the year 2021. I think you'll find that in your folder.
I'll open.
We have an offer by Mr. McGuire and a second by Mrs. Ronnie Gedros on this calendar. Board member, is any discussion necessary? A roll call vote, Mrs. Reynolds.
Mr. Danzy?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Benfield?
Yes.
Mr. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Gedros?
Yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Mrs. Broadway?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey? Yes. Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And before we move on, can I just ask that we do have this posted on our website where it is
Yeah.
very easy, visible?
Access.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am, we can take care of that.
thank you.
Item number 4, consider approving the extension of COVID leave policy as currently articulated by the federal government until further notice or until the federal government updates the policy. Superintendent Eagle.
Yes, sir. So basically, right now, we know that policy is only good until December 31st of this year. We do not know if the federal government we believe that they have the desire to, but Congress has not decided to do that yet. But we, if anything, have more need for it right now than ever before. As Mr. Wascom told you, he just dumped a large amount of money into payroll, and one of the reasons for that is to still protect this program. We do believe at some point in the very near future, perhaps even before December 31st, that the U.S. Congress will come in and take care of this, but we don't want there to be a lapse in that situation. And then after y'all vote, I'll also update you on one other thing to do with the COVID policy. But any questions on that, I can also answer.
I'll offer. 'Cause
We have an offer by Reverend Harrison, second by Mr. Danzy on item 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So, Superintendent Eloy, we are putting this in place to protect our employees.
Correct.
Appreciate that, sir.
The other thing we're doing for the employees, what we're finding is when an employee is the only employee to go home, and school is still continuing, we are having to charge them their COVID leave or just their leave. But when a school shuts down, when there's been a shutdown or a complete quarantine of the whole school, we are considering that a school closure. And in that case, we are not taking leave from any individual at that school because, again, it is a school closure. The other thing we're doing is when you are an employee that has the ability, in some cases the necessity, you are a essential employee, so to speak. For instance, you're in a department that has to continue. We are also working with those folks to mitigate issues as well. So we're trying to be as employee friendly in this process as humanly possible. So I just wanted to update you on those few things. So for instance, the NJH, the Goldana, the LP Bond folks, when those schools were shut down, none of those folks would have or should have been charged their leave.
That's great. That concludes the executive report. Mr.
Thank you, Reverend Harris. Board members, anything else? Mr. McGuire?
I have an item.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to give a public thank you to the Crew of Excellence. The Crew of Excellence and a group of citizens got together and donated coats to LP Bond and socks, and they'll be delivered Monday. So that was really great, and we just appreciate the help.
That is great.
That's
That's awesome.
I would like to thank Mr. Eagle, Dr. Eagle. Correction.
You do not have to do that, trust me.
For all of the work that he has done with Northwestern in assisting those non-certified teachers.
Amen.
When they become certified, I think that's great. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, but I gotta tell you, Miss, you talked about last year, it was at a certain number, and now it's at another number. Mr. Doctor, whatever, Reverend Eloy was not here during that time, so I gotta give credit where credit's due and say that Miss Page and the entire team that, whether it's principals, they got that down initially, and we're just continuing their hard work, so.
Well, I'm just glad you gave them the permission to go ahead and pull the trigger, because it's been very much in the working, she worked hard.
All I'm doing is allowing Miss Page to do what she's always wanted to do, so.
Mr. McGuire?
Real joy.
All in favor of adjourning?
Don't look back.
I called you, but you were just busy. This is the,